All right, guys, here is the anticipated part 1 of my adoption journey. So, back in, oh gosh, I can't even remember now because it was so far long ago, but it was in 2011. It had to have been around March or April. I found out I was pregnant. This was my first pregnancy, and I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I just remember calling my mom. I remember having her help me get a cheap pregnancy test, and I remember going to the pregnancy resource center here in town. At the time that I found out I was pregnant, I was not, I don't know how to explain it. I had just gotten out of jail. I had just gotten my own apartment. I had just been a key holder for Dollar General. I was doing the right thing. Really learned my lesson from getting in trouble. And I was doing great. Right before I got pregnant, though, I started kind of backsliding. I started not making the right choices again. I started dipping and dabbling in things that I shouldn't have been dipping and dabbling in anymore because I had already gone to jail and I had, changed my life. I had felony court coming up and I was supposed to be doing the best I could be because I had 2 felony charges against me, state jail felony charges against me. This is really hard for me to talk about because when I tell you redemption is real, I very much mean it. Redemption is real. And it doesn't matter what point of life you're in, God will find you and bring that redemption. So, I got caught up in things again. I started using drugs again. And as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I stopped. I stopped everything. A few weeks after I found out I was pregnant, I went to felony district court and I got sent to rehab instead of jail, and I went to a rehab facility in Waco. And when I was in that rehab facility, I was told that one of the things that I had to do while I was in rehab was I had to find a sober living environment to live in after I graduated from the rehab program, and that I had to figure out what I was going to do. My grandmother had just died. I couldn't go live with my mom. I had basically burned all my bridges at that point because I wasn't making good choices in life. I wasn't doing the right thing. That's when I started researching when I was in the facility. I started going to a pregnancy center in Waco. I was taking parenting classes because at that point, I didn't even think that adoption was for me. I didn't even know that that would be something that I wanted or something that God wanted for me in my life. So while I was going to the CareNet Pregnancy Center in Waco, Texas, I found a couple of maternity homes, and I literally just sat there and asked God, okay, which one? I didn't even know what a maternity home was. I had no idea that they had things like this for women because, again, this was my first time being in a situation like this. Looking through the list, I found one that stood out to me the most. It was called Father Heart Maternity Home. It was located in Lindale, Texas, and it was a entity from another entity called YWAM, Youth with a Mission. It is a bunch of missionaries, not military, missionaries from all around the world. They go and serve God. And, at that time, I knew that I needed to get back in that type of environment. And that was where I was supposed to go. After I left the pregnancy center that day, I went back to the facility where I was at doing rehab, and I got on the phones and I called Mama Brown. She was the house parent, the mom for the maternity home. I called her. I told her my story. I told her everything. I was very open and honest. And she told me a little bit about what they did and what they were there for and what would happen if I came. And I ended the call with her, and she said, we're going to pray about it and we'll call you back. I literally had a call back not long after that. And she said, get a bus ticket and you can come. So I got on the bus and I rode the Greyhound from Waco all the way to Longview, Texas. I had a stop in Dallas. I ended up missing my bus in Dallas because our bus was late from Waco to Dallas. I was pregnant. I had no food. I had no money, nothing. And when Mama Brown and Coach picked me up in Longview, they took me to Whataburger. They got me something to eat. And from there, we went to Lindale. And I remember when I walked into there, it was like a giant Victorian house. There was like so many rooms upstairs. There was 3 floors. The bottom floor, the middle floor where all the girls slept, and then the top floor is where another lady with her daughter slept. She had actually went through the program as well, and she was now working, and she was an active missionary, but she served at the maternity home. So I was there for a long time. I went to the doctor. I still then, even being there after months, was doing parenting classes, was doing things to teach me the necessities that are, you know, like the necessities of a baby, things like how to take care of your baby, all of the parenting things that were needed, while I also was being brought closer to God. And then one day I went to church and this lady came up to me, and I was super pregnant. I was probably like 7 months pregnant. And this lady came up to me and she was like, I know that you have a little boy, and I know what you're going to do with him. And God knows that you know, and you need to listen. So I'll be honest with you. At first I was like, I don't know who you are. I don't understand what you're saying to me. And it scared me. A couple of weeks later, we had a birthday dinner for my friend at Father Heart. And she, in the past, had done like a mission trip with my son's now adoptive parents. And they were invited to the party. I had never met them before in my life. Ever. Didn't know who they were. Nothing. It's so funny too how God works. I sat down at the spaghetti dinner. I remember exactly what it was. We were having spaghetti, salad, garlic bread, all that stuff like that. I sat down at the table and they came in and they sat right next to me. Husband and wife sat right next to me. We talked. We, fellowshipped, everything like that. Then a few weeks later, God spoke to me again in my dream. And all I saw was like visions of my son with the 2 people that I sat with at the table. And I told the house mom, I think God is telling me that I'm supposed to place my child for adoption. I want to talk to the adoption counselors. It's so, it literally is just so crazy how God works. So I talked to the counselors with the adoption agency. We had weekly meetings because when it comes to adoption, I'm sure, as you all know or may have your own presumptions about it, it's a hard decision. And it's still a hard decision to this day. Me looking back, like that was a hard decision to make. But I had enough confirmation from God with the lady from church, the dream that I had, the visions that I was having of my son with those 2 people that I had no idea were. Like, I knew that I knew that I knew that I knew that I knew. And I told the lady, I think I know who my son's parents are supposed to be. So now that you've watched this first part of it, I want you guys to sit here. Let me know what you think so far about my story. And then get prepared for part 2, because we're not done yet. We're not done. We are not done. We're not done. I love you guys.